Well, good morning, weirdos. I'm a little late, a little technical difficulty, but I am live. Good morning, weirdos. Time for coffee. Maybe she's thinking about me. Maybe she's bringing me down. I've been out on the road, I've been out on the town. Well, good morning. Another beautiful day in paradise. Okay. There you go. Whew. Sleep is so exhausting. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, man? What you doing, man? What you doing there, man? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, please. All right, coffee. Now this is going to work till I have coffee. Oh, glorious. Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Well, if y'all are just tuning in this morning, I tell you what, let's talk about KMET the Mighty Met 94.7 here in Southern California. Now there's something they should bring back, right? I mean, come on. I'd be first to sign up for one of them DJ jobs there, eh? Oh, glorious. Oh, yeah. Coffee. Looks like I sit out here alone this morning. My dog chair is empty again. Oh, well. Dog's got to sleep. Well, anyway. Well, I want to thank all of you who have watched and shared and liked and commented, or any of the above, on my recent videos or any of my videos. It's much appreciated. It's totally appreciated. I really like the knowledge of knowing, that it actually helps somebody, affect someone, make somebody happy, make someone think, whatever, as long as I'm doing something worthy. I'm just Just a simple Southern California stoner. That's me. That's me, man. Mine. That's me, man. Let's see. Let's get into something here this morning. What do we got? We got Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Isn't that appropriate? This is a hybrid. It is an indica strong hybrid. Yeah. It is the Breakfast Club strain from Big Tree, America's Cannabis. This here has 33.22% THC. Aren't sneezes something else? I mean, Lord. There's a hell of a shoo. How do you do? All right. Well, let's see what we got here on the old platform here. We don't need that much, do we? We don't need that little. I tell you what we want is the right amount. Man. Stupid post-nasal drip. Maybe I just, like the key. Thank you, Fasha, for sending me that message that you have shared my my video, dude. That's like totally awesome. I appreciate it. I want to thank the KMET group, KMET, for allowing me to share my weirdness over there. I want to thank the I Grew Up in Lake Elsinore group. Thank you for letting me share my stuff there. That's much appreciated. I did grow up in Elsinore. Elsinore held my formative years from my pre-teens to my early 20s. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened in Elsinore. KMET happened in Elsinore. Let's see. Anybody got any good KMET stories? I think I told a KMET story a while back. No, I'm sorry. That was not a KMET story. That was another station story. Yeah. KMET. Anybody got a good KMET story? Anybody? Well, I'm sure you'll hear about this again in another. Ooh, look, a seed. A Breakfast Club seed. More like a Breakfast Club sandwich. Let me put the seed in that container there with the Breakfast Club. A Breakfast Club sandwich. Wow. It's not too often you get a seed out of these bags. You know what I mean? They're usually pretty seedless. It's not like they go through and pull all the seeds out. They just make sure that the plant don't get seeds. Oh, this post-nasal drip is just killing me, It's all that cocaine back in the 80s. That's what did it. Well. KMET stories. Anybody? Well, I don't want to tell mine right away. totally mine. So like, yeah, when we were young back in the day in Elsinore, back in Southern California, we listened to KMET almost exclusively. I mean, in the car with my parents, it was K Earth 101 on the FM dial. That was one of the local Southern California radio stations, was KMET. Another FM station was, of course, KMET, KLOS. Let's see, what was that one? KISS FM at 91X. And later on, we had pirate radio. That was in the 90s, I believe. Yeah. Radio stations come and go. But the memories, they live on and on. Okay. So like, we're talking about KMET this morning. Jim Ladd, Paraquat Kelly. Who else we got on that? Let's hear about your favorite DJs from back then. Yeah, was it Chuck Moshantz? That's another one I think I remember. There was a couple of girls on the radio. What were their names? Right? Like, I don't know. I don't remember. Help me out, people. Type in your favorite KMET DJ. And then, like, can you hear my stomach? It's making all kinds of noise. It's waking up. Oy. Oh, yeah. Well, so first old bong hit of the day here. Good morning to you. You see my 94.7 there. KMET, the Mighty Met. Yeah, it's right in the poo-poo. So let's see. The only thing different between now and 2024 and yesterday in 1984 is the only difference is the lack of KMET. That's it. Send me your KMET recordings. If you have any on-air recordings of KMET, please send me a copy. I would really appreciate it, I would totally appreciate it. 15 minutes into the show. We got started a little bit late today. Well, I don't know about you, but the sound of me sniffing is none too rewarding. So this is me. This is me live in the morning. This is me sitting here drinking coffee, doing bong hits. King Tut. Anybody? Anybody? Walk like an Egyptian, anybody? Yeah? Like, oh my God, no way. Next week, let's talk about MTV. How's that? Next week, let's talk MTV. That'd be cool. That'd be totally cool. Let me make a note of that. And then that way, come Monday, I can remember what the hell it was I was talking about today. Totally. Mm-hmm. And we want to talk about, what were we talking about? See, I told you I'd forget. I forgot already. Anybody remember what I was talking about? Yeah. Monday, we're going to talk about MTV. Let's do MTV down here. And today we're talking about KMET. And I think that maybe Wednesday or Thursday, pardon me, Thursday, Thirsty Thursdays, we're going to talk about Willie Nelson movies, Willie Nelson music, Willie Nelson in general, anything you want to discuss about Willie Nelson. Let's talk about Willie Nelson. I listened to a lot of Willie Nelson growing up because it was always on. Yeah. Everybody was always quoting "On the Road Again." That was a great one. A great one. So in 1970, 77, 78. I'm going to say it's the summer of 78, right? It's before we moved into Temecula and after we were in Fallbrook. My father got a settlement for an accident, and he bought a van, a big giant Dodge van. So when we left Fallbrook, we went and pretty much moved into this van. We spent the better part of a summer living in this van, driving South Dakota, again, Nebraska area. Yeah. But we spent a summer in the van living on the beach, Cardiff by the Sea, down in San Diego County, Southern California. So we're in this big Dodge Maxi van, which has got one bed in the back, and a couple of seats, a refrigerator, a little power adapter things you can plug in like a little TV. We had a little black and white TV. It wasn't a bubble top. It didn't have a big top on it, but we were all kids, so we didn't give a shit. It was a bummer for my father, probably. So we're in this van, and we're living in a van and a tent. And we had come back from South Dakota, Nebraska area, and on the way back, we went through Arizona, Scottsdale, and stopped at my mother's father's house, and picked up an old 1960s tent trailer that they had used a lot. And so they donated it to our cause we wasn't doing nothing. So we took this tent trailer and we took it back to Southern California with us from Arizona. Well, not long after we had it, we were kind of living in it up and down the coast. And the axle went dry and it seized up. So we had to take it to an RV repair. I think it was in Sand Canyon, actually. But we had to take it, or maybe, no, I think maybe it was down in Leucadia area. Yeah, it was down in Leucadia area. So we had it down there. And of course, we drop it off, we get it repaired, and then we have no money to pay for it. So we had to wait and wait and wait and live in the van until our parents could come up with the funds to get this tent trailer out. And it was more than just the tent trailer. All of our crap was packed into this tent trailer. All of our clothes, our shoes, any kind of belongings we had were packed into this tent trailer. And it was yeah, it was kind of a bummer because now we had to live just in the van, and we didn't even have a tent at that point. And we spent most of that summer living in that van, waiting for that to get the trailer back. So we're stationed at Cardiff by the Sea. It's the state Carlsbad, part of this Carlsbad State Park area thing there, but it's the Cardiff end of it. And it's right on the cliffs of the Pacific Ocean, right looking down over the beach. So we stay in these campsites as long as we are allowed to by law, and then we have to move to another campsite every couple of weeks, I believe. So and that's if you're staying consecutively, right? Night after night after night after night. But if you check in and then check out and then check in and then check out, well, you don't get those limits and you can pretty much stay. But you always have to worry about getting a spot, because these, you can get a spot easy during the week, but on the weekends it's hard to get a spot. And then what do? You got to park that van somewhere in a parking lot somewhere, an all-night store. And so we did that as well. We would just park wherever we could park that thing at night to sleep. And then during the day, we would go back down to Cardiff by the Sea and hang out at the day use beach, which was free. I believe it was free, or a couple of bucks. It was a lot cheaper than the overnight stuff. But as I recall, we had a dog, and my sister had a rabbit at one point, a big white rabbit with red eyes. And down on Cardiff Beach, there's this little lagoon and the inlet to the lagoon. So we would play down there because the water wasn't moving fast through the mouth of the lagoon, and we could go play in there and not have to worry about the undertow and getting pulled out. And we would sit and make little sand castles for my sister's rabbit to climb in and out of. And she had the rabbit on a leash. It was a leashed rabbit and a leashed dog, because you couldn't have pets without leashes. But we used to hang out on that beach like all day, every day. Now, my sister wasn't always there. She would often stay with my mother in her apartment in Hollywood. That must have been nice. I never got to stay in the apartment. I only got to visit the apartment. I can only remember once actually going into the apartment. So there's that, whatever that means. I remember sitting in the car a lot, waiting for parents to take care of business and do things. Yeah. So we're living down at Cardiff by the Sea on the beach and in parking lots and wherever we can manage to park our van. And Robert and Brandy are able to make friends at the drop of a hat. They're always getting invited to barbecues and events and parties and that kind of stuff. I was not. I was kind of an oddball, an odd duck, and did not make friends easily. But and when they didn't find anybody, when there was nobody around to make friends with, well, of course we would all just me and Robert, or the three of us, would hang out together and do stupid shit on the beach. Wander through the park, wander up and down the beach. We had at one point we got this giant surfboard, this big giant Jacobs surfboard. It was like 9 feet long. It was huge, just bleeding fiberglass like crazy. And my brother, of course, wanted to do something, so he would take that surfboard out, big giant, it was like twice his size, it was giant, and he would take that thing out and wax it up and come back just a fiberglass rash all over him, because that board was old and it needed help. We didn't know shit. So as much as he tried to sex wax that board up, he just could not get enough wax on it, and would just come in just covered in and you got fiberglass eating at you, and then the salt water. I think it was like vinegar or something. You had to take a bath in vinegar to get all of that shit out of him. I was not into sports or water sports or anything like that. It would have been nice had I been a reader. I would have spent my days sitting on the beach reading, but I was not I was not driven by anyone in the family to read. Reading at that point was one of those things that kept Dad away from us. So I didn't really like the idea of reading. It was something that I had to do in school. It was something for homework, something that kept Dad busy all of the time because of his schooling. So I wasn't a real big fan of books and reading. They were just a bummer, a time waster. But when there was nothing to do, we would just walk around. Me and Robert would just walk all over Cardiff. I remember once we walked down along the railroad tracks, and I got dogs running amok. Let me go let some dogs out here so we can have some company. I'll be right back. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Sam. You want to sit here with me? Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Come on. Stretch your bones. Stretch them bones. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. There you go. Hi, buddy. Good morning. I was just talking about when I was a kid, when I was a Nino. Good morning. Okay, so Robert and I down in Cardiff back in summer of 78, 79 maybe. Yeah, this could have been the summer of 79, man. So anyway, so we're down in Cardiff. I'm about 10 or 11. Robert's about 11 or 12. Or 12 or 13, right? Yeah, so he's 12 or 13. I'm 11 or 12. We're hanging out. We're walking up the railroad tracks, up the Amtrak tracks, right there on the coast. And I believe it was the coast, PCH, and the railroad tracks and then town. So everything was pretty snug right there. And we're walking along the tracks, minding our own business. And this guy from up on the highway who had his car parked up there was yelling down at us, screaming at us. We're like, what? He's like, get up here. So we think it's like an emergency or something. So we get up there, and the son of a bitch accused us of stealing stuff out of his convertible, right? And it's like, what idiot parks their convertible without putting the top up, right? I mean, where's the logic in that, you know? You want to get covered up, buddy? Huh? And then, there you go. And then you just accost some kids passing by and blame it on them. So he gets us there and starts accusing us and wants his wallet or whatever back. And we're like, So he threatens to kick our asses, at which point I'm crying already. Like, what are you going to kill us for? You know? Just ridiculous. I think, Robert, you'll have to refresh my memory. It's none too accurate. But if I believe correctly, we just booked it. We just ran. We just said, well, fuck this guy. I mean, if he's going to kick our ass, what the fuck, we're just going to stand around, let him kick our ass? You want to go to bed? Yeah. So we booked it. We bailed the hell out of there. I mean, would you stand around and let some big giant Navy Marine looking dude kick your ass? Because I think he was drunk too. I mean, who's their convertible right on the highway with the top down? I mean, any passerby is going to want to fucking look in there and see what's available, right? Unbelievable. You know what I mean? I mean, how do you justify the logic in that? So right about the same time period, my sister is staying with us because she's with us off and on. And she's got to be like 8 to 9 years old, something like that. So she's pretty young still. And at one point, she meets this girl who's working. She meets this girl on the beach, whose parents are in this big giant bus, just this huge tour bus, right? A rock and roll tour bus. So, Sam, come here. So, she is invited to go to this bus for like a barbecue party, and winds up with a Willie Nelson hat because they were like the road crew for Willie Nelson. Come on. And that was so cool. I don't think we ever got to see Willie Nelson. At that point, I didn't know too much about Willie Nelson, other than I had heard some of his stuff on the radio. But that would be neat to have that hat. It was a red trucker cap with a white front that just said in red letters Willie Nelson, in the handwritten Willie Nelson logo. It was a cool hat. I remember that bus, that big giant, tall, like Trailways, Buffalo, New York type, big old traveling cross country bus. It was huge. Do you guys still have that bus, Willie, Lucas? Do you guys still have that bus in Austin somewhere? That would be neat. Or did it? You know what? It probably got sold off when he was harassed. When Willie was harassed by the IRS at one point. Go after the fucking record companies. They're the guys that made the fucking money. You go after the artist who makes a pittance. Even today, it's horrible today. Even today, you gotta sell your song like 100 times to make a fucking buck. It's like, that's horrible. And yet you give it to the other. You give it to a record company, and you're fucking making shit. You're making garbage. You're making less. You gotta self-publish. Self-print, self-record. I gotta heat up this coffee. It's starting to get lukewarm, and I don't like no Star Wars coffee. Some shot. Totally. Yeah, so it's the summer of 78 or 79, maybe. I know it was in between Fallbrook and Temecula for us. We were still trying to stay closer to San Diego because of my father's schooling at UCSD, but my mother was living and working in Hollywood. So, and they weren't divorced, they weren't separated. That was just economically the way it worked. Maybe they were to some degree somewhat unaffiliated at that point. Somebody getting rowdy out there this morning. It's going to get Sam riled up. But yeah, we're spending every day down at Cardiff by the Sea, getting to know the little area, as well as a couple of little preteen kids can get to know it. Scavenging the beach for something to do. The worst part about it probably was the bologna sandwiches. That's what I call my bologna sandwich summer. Every day my father would leave us, Robert and I, or the three of us, Robert and Brandy and I, and leave us on the beach. And he would leave the van because he couldn't afford to drive the van. And he had to leave a place for us to physically be so that it would alleviate the law issue, because you can't just dump your kids off somewhere. Even back in the 70s, you couldn't just dump your kids off somewhere and leave them there, because somebody at some point would say, I've seen these kids here all day and not one parent around. Somebody's going to snitch. There's always a Karen in the fucking crowd. So it was real hard to avoid getting into trouble, especially with my brother, who was older and a little rowdier. But for the most part, we pretty much kept a low profile on the beach. But spending every day, he would get up in the mornings and take off and go. Now I'm assuming that some days he was going to summer school, because one of the ways that he made money was through financial aid when he was going to school. So the school years meant that he was always in school, making it to every class and making good grades so that he could bring home as much of the financial aid money as possible, right? And then to supplement that, well, going to a campus, UCSD in San Diego, right? My goodness, it was like the perfect place to sell drugs, right? So he would get up, he would take off, he would go get something fronted to him, right? And that, to all you non-savvy folks, fronting means to get turned on to some drugs or weed or something without paying, with the promise of payment later. And it was like an IOU situation. And if you have a good rapport with your dope dealer, with your connection, as we call them, then your connection will give you a front. So you get a front of, let's say, like an eighth of weed, right? And or a quarter or a half or something. A half, an eighth is 3.5 grams. A quarter is 7 grams. 14 grams is a half ounce. Yada yada. So you get something, some acid or some coke or some pills or something, and you get it fronted to you, whatever he's got. And then you take that and you sell it for a little bit more than it's than you owe on it. Okay, so you get an eighth a pot for $10. Okay, and then you break it up into 3 dimes. Okay, and then you take these 3 dimes and you sell them, and now you pay back the 8 and you buy 2 more, and then you break that up, right? You see where I'm going with this? And once you've done that, then you've got a little bit of a bankroll going, right? And then you've got some money to go home and eat, and you've got some stash for the next day to get started, so you can go out, make a little bundle, go in, get a bigger amount, and kind of snowball it, so that you start off with nothing, right? And you pay back your front. And then with that little tiny bankroll you start with, you roll that into, well, I mean, when we were living in a house, he would snowball that into rent. Okay. Snowball that into grocery money, or Christmas or birthday or something. So most days we spent alone on the beach, just us kids, trying to avoid the law and authority and trouble, trying to avoid hunger, because when he would leave in the morning, there would be either no food or whatever bread, bologna, and mustard was left over from the day before. All right. And usually it wasn't. Usually the food would go that day. All right. So we would have whatever little bit of foodstuffs from the previous day, usually nothing. And we would spend most of the day very, very hungry. And then at some point, he would evening or late afternoon with a couple dollars worth of food, literally. It would be a loaf of sandwich bread, the cheap, long, skinny sandwich bread loaf, the 50-cent loaf. I mean, the cheapest loaf of bread you could get, the biggest, cheapest loaf of bread you could get. And then he would bring back the biggest pack of bologna you could get, and a little thing of mustard or sometimes mayonnaise. But we didn't have a refrigerator or icebox or a cooler, nor did we have the money to pay for ice if we had it. So more than likely the mayo would go bad really quick. Mustard, it doesn't go bad as quick because it's got a lot of vinegar in it, right? There's too much in mayo for mayo to last much longer than 12 to 24 hours, without refrigeration. So that was my bologna summer. At one point, we got to where we were able to, it was my grandmother, my father's mother, Opal. She was able to find us a house in Rancho California. Rancho California was what the Temecula area was called, east of the 15 freeway. West of the 15 freeway was a little tiny little town of Temecula that had been there forever. And the area was known as Temecula, but during the real estate boom of the 70s, they tried to rebrand the area as Rancho California. They named the main road there Rancho California Road. And they built a couple little model neighborhoods. There were a couple of established neighborhoods that had been there for a decade before we got there, a decade or longer. Lake Village was kind of a ritzy part of Rancho California at the time. It was long established and had a lot of old growth and trees and old homes and stuff, and a kind of a lake and schools and whatnot. And then down in the Temecula, Rancho California Valley area, along Rancho California Road, and in the neighborhoods adjacent to that, we were in a neighborhood called La Serena Way. And it was one of the earlier neighborhoods in Temecula. And our grandmother got us into that house there. And it was a great house. It was a 3-bedroom house. It was probably the nicest place that we had ever stayed. I'm going to say before or after. It was the Southern California lifestyle home. And it was amazing that we were in it. Thank you, grandmother. But we spent 3 years or so-ish, 3-ish years there. I went to my second year of 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade there. Robert finished junior high there and went a year to high school from there. And at that time in Rancho California, there was a Christian high school, but no regular public high school. So everybody had to be bused to Lake Elsinore. And Elsinore had the high school for the whole valley between Temecula, Rancho California area, and all the way up to Elsinore. Pardon. But we spent 3 years there after that summer on the beach. But that each summer, that was something else. That was one of those periods in your life where you don't ever want to have to do that again. But it was such a bizarre situation that the memories, as bad as they were, they're still good memories. Because it was like, a preteen kid adventure. You know, it was like I kept expecting Sigmund to come up out of the ocean, and hang out. I mean, it was like an adventure. It was like an all day, every day, all summer long adventure. We didn't know what the hell was going on. Sure, we knew we were going to be hungry. We knew that we were probably going to be bored. But we also knew that things could change just like that. For good or bad, something's going to happen, And something always did, I remember there was a Jack in the Box up the street. I believe it's still there. And it was just up the street from the beach. And that was one of those places that if he had snowballed his bankroll into something worthy, we would actually get to eat a hot meal, and that would usually be Burger King or McDonald's or something. Quite often, it would have to be something like that, because until we got that tent trailer back, we pretty much didn't have any cookware, any dishes, anything to do anything with. I mean, we were bumming it hard. And the tent trailer was supposed to have made everything, that summer a lot easier, a lot more manageable. Give us, beds and bedrooms and a place to hang out and do stuff. And had we not blown the axle on that thing, it would have been. But I don't recall. God. So I want to say that now that I'm completely mistaken in the year. Right? Robert, where are you? We lived in Temecula until the summer of '80, I believe. And then we left that house and went back east again. And I think that's when we came back with the tent trailer, because I don't remember having the tent trailer in the Temecula house. We had the van, and we had a little Datsun 510. It was a great little car. I learned how to drive stick in that car, in that little 510. But I'm going to have to say that it was the summer of 1980, because I don't think we had the tent trailer before that. And I remember that, yeah, that was it. Because I remember leaving Temecula, going out on the road back to South Dakota, coming back. The house was still vacant, but we had to get everything out. And I don't remember where, but I think we left a lot of stuff and put a few things in. We didn't have really good luck with storage. It would usually get auctioned off. I'm pretty sure we just wound up not having a lot of this stuff anymore. Some of it went into boxes and into storage somewhere, but I don't think that it was an actual storage unit. I think it was at somebody's house or garage or something. But yeah, when we were in that, I remember leaving Temecula and being at a campground up by the candy store in Ortega Mountain, up in one of the campgrounds, the one on the big turn. There's a big, giant looping turn on the highway, and inside the loop is a campground, a state park. And I remember being there one day and just being so bummed that that we were away from our home, and we had that house for like 2 or 3 years, and it had really become like important to me, because I was just so sick of living on the road, and I missed, like, the one friend that I had was Charles, and I had this one friend. Robert had like a cajillion friends, and as did my sister Brandy, but I had like one solid friend, and I had his phone number memorized. And I remember having to call his house from the Ortega Mountains, collect. And he actually was able to accept the charges, and I got to talk to Charles. I don't know if you'll ever remember this, but I was so excited and happy and depressed and miserable at the same time. And I didn't know what to tell him, I mean, how do you tell your friend that, every once in a while we got to pick it up and hit the road because, the FBI has been following my parents ever since 1973 in the Wounded Knee 2 situation. It's a bummer. you know, because you can't tell people that because they look at you like you're fucking crazy. Wounded what? You wounded your what? You know, nobody got it. And then you try to tell people who understand, and they don't believe you. You know, yeah, white people at Wounded Knee, whatever. So, yeah, there were a couple of summers where we lived. A couple. There were a few summers where we lived in a tent in the mountains, or in a van down by the river, or you know, a tent trailer on the beach, down living in somebody's yard at the lake. It's just the way we avoided being tracked by authority, basically, flat out. Yeah, because everywhere we went, wherever we were, there would be a phone call checking up on us from who knows where, right? But we'd be somewhere for a while, and then all of a sudden people would come around asking questions. So how come we're getting these phone calls from government officials and yada, 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 asking, you know, what you've been doing and where you've been and what you do for a living and that kind of stuff? How come, you know, maybe we should just, maybe you should just move along, you know? True stuff. True that. That was my childhood, you know, not knowing why, but not understanding why, not understanding why it is that you have to keep, you know, but you don't know. You understand, but you don't understand. You know what you're told, but you don't understand. You know, it's a fucked up situation. It really is. It really is. Yeah. But I remember at one time it was about 1978, summer of 1978. And we were going between Hollywood, where my mother was working, and I think we were on our way down to Lake Elsinore area. We had been staying off and on with my grandmother at this point, and her husband, he wasn't a real nice guy. So and you know, we're like a bunch of freaking hippie freaks, homeless hippies, right? So, you know, we're none too appetizing to have around for the average person back then. We're like, yeah, like Sonny and Cher at the White House. You know, we just did not fit in. And I remember we're cruising down the freeway, and my father, I think it's in my grandmother's Plymouth. It's a red Plymouth. And we had been using that since she got her Cougar. She got a Cougar, a Mercury Cougar, and let us have her car, her little hand-me-down car. And she could have traded it in, and she didn't. She let the old man have it so that we would have some wheels. And we're cruising in this red Plymouth down Southern California freeway, and we're listening to the radio. We're listening to KMET 94.7, and all of a sudden, my father is anxious to get off the freeway. He's like, I got to get to a phone. I got to get to a phone. We're like, well, what the hell? We're just, you know, we're kids. I'm 10 years old, you know, or barely 10 years old, which makes my brother and sister 10, so 12 and 8 respectively. So it's 8, 10, and 12, me in the middle. And so we get off of the freeway and we rush to the nearest phone booth, and we get there, and my father comes back to the car and he says, all right, we just won tickets to a concert. Let's go get ready. And we're like, what? And as it turns out, there was a concert at Angel Stadium that day, and they were just trying to get rid of the last of the tickets that they had, because the radio stations get concert tickets to give away to promote the concert. Because if you don't win a ticket, you're going to want to buy a ticket because you've been, trying to win a ticket. So he gets, within a couple of minutes, gets off the freeway, gets to a payphone, and wins us these tickets. So we have to get to, I don't even think we went to the radio station. They were at the ADM and will call. So we went to a Safeway, I believe, or an Alpha Beta, one of those stores nearby. And we grabbed one of those little foam coolers and filled it full of like juices and sodas and that kind of stuff, and a little bit of food. And we ran over to Angel Stadium when we got in line. And we stood in line with the blankets and the cooler and everything, and take whatever we could out of the cooler, leave the cooler there, and go into the concert. And I think he had spent like the bulk on this cooler and its contents, so that we could have this day and hang out and eat some lunch on the infield there. But it turned out to be an all-day event, right? It was those festival concerts. So, and it had been going on through the country. This was the world tour, and this is the North American end of the tour. Who was so the lineup was supposed to have been, the open were supposed to have been the Outlaws was one of the opening acts, and not Roberta Flack, but the other girl who does some great fucking songs. I can't remember. She's supposed to be there. The Outlaws, she can't make it because she's not up for it. I guess she gets sick or something. The Outlaws get busted and aren't allowed to leave because they have a court date. So they're not allowed to come to California. So to replace them, they get an up-and-coming artist who had like one song, and Christopher Cross was his name. And Fly Like the Wind, or was it Sailing Away? I mean, so we had like one hit. So his set was basically his hit and a couple of other originals and a bunch of covers. And it was pretty much him on stage with his guitar. I don't think that he had a backup band. It was a quick thing. Who was the girl? Oh, she did the inauguration at Obama's inauguration. Anybody, chime in and let me know what's going on. So we did that. So to take over for her, Peter Tosh, who had been doing another part of the show in another part of the country, I think, they brought him in to take her place. And then they had a high wire act going from up on the high part of the stadium down to behind the stage with the big A in the background and the stage set up. We saw a lot of the show from down below. At one point before the Stones came on, Robert and I went up to the top, the very high part in the stand in the stadium, to hang out up there and watch the show and see everything from on high. And they also had skydivers. They had skydivers coming down with the smoke and stuff, and then landing out in the parking lot. But it was pretty cool. I remember being up there and Robert being offered to smoke a joint with somebody. And he's like 12 years old. And he had the wherewithal, the sense to ask them what it was. Had it been just marijuana, he probably would have taken some, you know. Come on, 12 years old, Southern California, bring it on. So, I mean, all the other kids were smoking cigarettes. So what's the difference, right? So Robert, of course, declined their offer. And yeah, so we even got to borrow somebody's binoculars. I think instead of the joint, they offered to let us use their binoculars, and we had binoculars up there for a little while. I remember that there was a big commotion behind the stage, police and some kind of situation going on, and an ambulance, and it turns out that someone had gotten stabbed in the back area there, or in the venue. And then they were taken behind the outfield where the home run fence is, behind the backstage there. And so you could see from up there, you could see all of the commotion going on, and police and ambulances and whatnot. It wasn't the only thing that happened. I remember when the Stones came on, it was still daytime because it was summer. And so they come on, and it was just a phenomenal show. Of course, their act was overshadowed by the whole day's events. So you can't really remember, you know, one thing or one act on a day like that when you're that young. I remember Peter Tosh being up on stage. I remember him during his song, or during him singing, he was wearing this big robe tunic all the way to the floor with these big deep pockets on the sides. And while he was performing, he would occasionally reach into one of these pockets and pull out a handful of joints, marijuana cigarettes, and he'd throw them out into the audience, right? And get everybody irie with him. And he would light up on stage and smoke these big fat joints on stage while chucking doobies out into the audience, right? So everybody's just having a blast, getting mellow. Unfortunately, at the time in California, it was illegal to dispense marijuana to the masses. So he was promptly arrested afterwards for his actions, which I'm sure he got arrested in every place that he went. And, you know, more power to you. That was Peter Tosh. But when the Rolling Stones did their set, Mick Jagger was so full of energy. He hovered around the stage. He just kind of, about a foot off the ground, he just kind of levitated around, doing his thing, dancing, moving, shaking. It was phenomenal. It was Mick Jagger. And there came a point where he was doing his high kicks, and he high kicked his shoe off into the audience, right? And they didn't give his shoe back, so he just kicked his other shoe off. And so he's running around stage now with no shoes on. And who is going to give Mick Jagger's shoe? If Mick Jagger had kicked his shoe at me, that thing would go into my coat, and I would hold on to it for dear life, right? I mean, it's just a stinky shoe, but still, it's Mick Jagger's shoe, right? So he didn't get his shoes back. What he did get back when he asked for his shoes back was somebody else's shoe. And he got somebody else's shoe back, and he's like, "Nah, this ain't my shoe." Well, that started a series of other shoes coming to the stage. And my brother and I are way up here, right? And we see a couple of shoes hit the stage. And then we see a couple of more shoes hit the stage. Pretty soon, from first and second base and home plate area, we see this wave of shoes roll forward, and then the wave gets bigger as it rolls again. And then so by the time this wave gets to the stage, it's got to be everybody's shoes who are down here, right? Everybody is pulling their shoes off and throwing them. So Mick Jagger is now up on stage in a shower, a rain, a barrage of shoes coming down, and now he's having to perform his act in the shoe rain, right? And he does, and he pulls it off. And he's just, at the end, he's just covered in sweat and and the stage is just covered in shoes, right? At the end of the show, people milled around for hours looking for their shoes. Yeah. It was insanity. It was sheer insanity. This probably had to be one of the most bizarre events I had seen at a concert. And it was my first concert that we had won tickets for from KMET. And that was, I mean, come on. Outside arena, on a stadium, outdoor, Southern California. It was just, what a first concert. Thank you, KMET. Yeah. Good stuff right there. And then I think the last KMET concert I went to would have to be the Robert Plant Principle of Moments tour. That was one that my father got us tickets for. He might have won those tickets as well. I doubt it. But he got my brother and I tickets to go to the Forum, September 21st, 1983, I think, or 23rd. It was in there somewhere. And it was at the Inglewood, the LA Forum. And I want to say that the opening act was Planet P, because I remember that song from the show, and I can't remember whether I heard the song at the show performed by the Planet P, or whether that song was playing on the loudspeaker system, live from KMET before the concert, because they play music before and after the show. They fill the place full of music. And I can't recall. I cannot recall. Now, what I do remember is that for the Robert Plant concert, Phil Collins was playing the drums for the tour, and that album, half of the previous album. And we had gotten, I think it's quite possible we went there and got tickets and then were left there so my father could go to Hollywood and do some stuff, which sounds about right. And we probably went there and just bought whatever tickets were available, because we wound up sitting right behind the stage. They had no backdrop stage. It was an open at one end at the one far end of the Forum was the stage, but there was nothing behind the stage. So sitting behind the stage, within a half a dozen rows, we were looking right down onto Phil Collins playing the drums. What a treat, right? And a couple of times during the concert, they actually turned and faced us while performing, which was nice, which was polite. And Phil Collins performed a song. But yeah, I don't recall whether Planet P was there or not. I remember that it was a big deal at the time on the radio was Planet P's song. Why Me? Right? You guys remember that song? Why me? Why me? Yeah, that was a great song. Now, I believe he's the keyboardist for Deep Purple, the guy who did the Planet P. Somebody correct me if anybody chimes in at some point. So, yeah, 1978 was my first KMET concert, first concert ever, and it was the KMET event. And 1983 was my last concert, KMET concert. KMET only lasted were they like 8 to 10 years lifespan? They weren't KMET for a long period of time. I believe early to mid 70s to the early 80s. I mean, it just 83, I think they went offline. You know, how unfortunate that they decided to go from KMET, the Mighty Met, to that miserable little cheesy The Wave, right? I mean, come on. It was like a knife in the back of Californians, you know. Where are you going to find Dr. Demento, right? But KMET. And I think I might be mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Dr. Demento not switch over to KLOS at some point? Somebody help me? Anybody? Yeah. Good old KMET. Yeah. Yeah, I guess probably Dr. Demento would be my my favorite time to listen to KMET. Well, any time of the day, really. Any old time of the day. They just played such great music all the time. Great radio personalities, great voices, soothing voices. You know, I heard my first Van Halen on KMET. I heard my first Rush on KMET. God, I heard so many firsts on KMET. We used to have KMET playing on the radio. We lived in this trailer park in Lake Elsinore, the Beachcomber at the end of Stoneman Wash, off Grand Avenue, and there was this room. It used to be, you know, an office or store or some kind of recreational room in the trailer park. It had long been abused and used, and had survived a couple of floods. Had no windows, no door. It did have a pool table and a couple of tables and a radio. And we would sit in there and play pool I think it was missing a ball or two. The cues were, looked like snakes. Nonetheless, we would sit in there and crank up KMET, and we would just spend every day into the night listening to, the rock and roll of the day. It was like, everything was fresh, everything was new. You'd get your classics, but if you wanted classics, you went to K-Earth. If you wanted what was happening right now, KMET was pumping it out. And no matter where you went in Los Angeles, you would see KMET plastered all over the place. My favorite was what they had, the KMET billboard, but they would put it up reversed upside down. So you would have this giant KMET 94 upside down. So people would be doing this, looking upside down at this big sign. You would see KMET pop up all over local TV, whether it was on the news, in a commercial, or more than likely on your favorite TV show, Greatest American Hero. What was another one? That, any of the local shows that were films, Chips. You would see any of the local TV programs filmed in Los Angeles or Hollywood. Any street scene, you would see a flash of KMET on a billboard, on a bumper sticker. You would see flashes of Tower Records. It was Southern California wouldn't be Southern California at the time without KMET, without Tower Records, without In-N-Out Burgers. They were the signs of the time, Yeah. Too much. That deserves a bong hit. Oh, and weed. That was a Southern California pastime. Was and is. Yeah. Good old Southern California. So speaking of Southern California and the weather, and today is January 22nd, 2024, Monday. It's supposed to be raining today. This is 100% chance of rain. Yeah, it looks pretty miserable outside. I don't mind. I don't need to go outside. And if I do, it's only rain. And I can appreciate the rain. We need it. It's how this planet cleans itself. It's how we get our drinking water. I'd like to talk about a campaign of planting trees and natural plants and foliage local to your area. Let's not get into planting, pine trees in the middle of the desert, or cactus up in the mountains. Let's plant stuff that's appropriate to our region, but let's plant some trees. Let's plant some stuff. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Home Depot or a local nursery and pick up, those little aspen trees, those little trees that grow like weeds. They don't take a whole lot of water, and they grow really, really well. And the roots shoot off little saplings, right? And I think what I'm going to do is go and get one of these trees that has some little saplings squirting out, or the potential for the little saplings to be squirting out the bottom. And what I think I'm going to do is every year pot these little saplings so that they can be planted, and then start planting some trees. Southern California, I think if we started planting more trees native to our region, we could heal ourselves, and we could help heal this planet. We can't bring KMET back, but we can bring back a landscape that looked like it did back then, back in the 70s. You know, 40, 50 years ago, the world was a lot greener. The sky was a lot bluer. The water was a lot fresher. The air was more breathable, right? And ever since the first Earth Day in 1970, when we realized what was going on, and we had the scientific data to prove that we were actually affecting our planet negatively. And you would think that at that point in 1970, with the first Earth Day, everything would have gotten better. But it seems that everything has gotten steadily worse from that time. And how is that possible? I mean, how can you... Well, I guess it's possible because, you know, it's humanity in a nutshell, right? This is bad. This is good. This is how to save you, and this is how to destroy you. And everybody seems to gravitate toward the negative, right? I mean, they prove that this one thing gives you cancer, and does that stop anyone from doing that? No, a few, but for the most part, no. Everybody continues along the same road. But, you know, the makers of this cancer-giving carcinogen can absolve themselves of any wrongdoing just by telling us, oh, by the way, this is going to kill you at some point. What do I care? I'm going to die anyway, right? And that's pretty much it, you know. Or if you're going to die, you know, well, don't worry about it. You know, I pay my tithing. I'm a good guy, you know. So, you know, I'm just waiting for meet the old St. Peter there, you know. And that doesn't do, maybe it does your soul, you know, and your afterlife some good, but it don't do anything for the here and now, you know. And we need to be more invested in the here and now, okay? Because regardless of what happens to us when we're gone, we are still going to be leaving behind those with which we may care about. All right. And so on and so on and so on. And all we've done is every generation has made this place a worse and worse place to leave to the next generation. And is it possible that we can change that, you know, and make it so that every generation to come after has a little better than the last? Wouldn't that be nicer, right? I'm guessing that everyone would approve, but you know, who's going to make it happen, right? You, me? Yeah, that's just an unfortunate byproduct of humanity, is not giving a shit, you know. Narcissistic, you know, self-involved, self-absorbed, self-gratifying. Is there ever going to be a time in humanity where collectively, humanity is going to pull its head out of its ass, and try to really give a shit about the here and now, as much as giving a shit about the fucking future, because for the most part, it's not future to those who have been around for 50 or 60 years. It's an inevitability, it's an end. But what about the ones who come later, the younger ones? Well, then they've got a future. Future for me means whatever future I leave for my daughter, and then her future is whatever future she leaves for those that come after. So, the here and now needs us more, and the future needs us to be in the here and now, and worrying about what will become of the next, and what will become of this here and now, in 20 years. Will there be anything to worry about? Is it going to be, is the entire world going to be a wasteland? Are these Road Warrior movies and these Bad Batch movies, are these our reality to come? I mean, I don't know. I would hope not. I think the first thing that we need to deal with to get a hold on the future is to slow down population growth, right? I mean, back, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, yeah, it was important to reproduce, to bounce back after things like the plague, where it just wiped out millions of people, and wars. And I think one of the last great things to just destroy a bunch of people and to cull out the herd was probably the Spanish flu, World War II. We lost millions to the Spanish flu. We lost like 60 million in World War II, and only a pittance of that were American. A pittance. I mean, they killed Jews and Russians and others, other Polish, and they just killed them by the millions, right? I mean, we'd just go into a town and, let's just wipe out 100, 200,000 people, and had we learned anything about humanity and population and war and famine and greed and power, had we learned anything back then, we might have constructed a new way of life. Let's not have so many kids. Well, we need a lot of kids to work the farm. We got a family farm. We need a lot of, that's, we can adopt, because there's like 1 million kids out there with no parents, right? So, there needs to be I think today, people, education, people, knowledge, education, knowledge is power. I think we should have certificates that say that you're psychologically fit. You've gone to classes to learn how to take care of babies and children. You've taken psychology classes on how to raise children properly, so you don't fuck with their heads and pass on your own bullshit. And then you have to have some kind of significant other in your life that is going to be present with you and the child, so that there is a family household unit thing going on, because that's important structure in a family. Well, I don't need no husband. be that as it may, I think it's been proven that families that are a whole unit just seem to, function and exist better. Don't shoot the messenger, and don't shoot me for having my own thoughts. Forgive me for being me. And then put a cap. I should be able to have one child to replace me when I'm gone. My wife should be able to have one child to replace her. So there, between the two of us, now we're allowed 2 children, right? Now I spent most of my early adult life, childhood and early adult life, figuring out that I didn't want to marry someone who I was going to divorce. I wanted to have an actual family, all right, and home. And so it took me a long time to get to where I felt mentally and emotionally I was ready to start a family, right? So I think everybody should be there when they start a family. I'm not saying that my way is best, but I'm saying that one thing that we should all have in common before we have children is knowledge. And I think we should be, we shouldn't be allowed to just go out and pump out children because I'm a free person. I can have as many kids as I want. That's unfair to the rest of us. Okay. That's unfair to the planet. That's unfair to your children. All right. I don't see the logic in having that many people on the planet for whatever agenda you have in supplying us with that many extra people to use up that many extra resources. We're stretched pretty thin right now as it is. If we, even right now, if we did a 1-for-1, an equal trade basis, all right, we're still maxed out. All right. The whole pandemic thing, it did not do as much as I'm sure that the powers that be would have liked to have had it done. I'm sure that the other scenarios that the powers that be have put into play to whittle down the population, they're not working fast enough. As far as I can see, and this is just my own personal opinion, they're going to keep cancer around as population control. As far as I can tell, and this is my own personal opinion, I'm pretty sure that there is a cure for cancer out there, and some wealthy bastards have it and are sitting on it because they can make more money with these little quick fix the side effects type of medication stuff that does not cure you. It just prolongs your agony, right? And they're going to make more money off of that crap and those patents. You can't make money off of cured people. So you want to keep everybody, so to some degree, you want to keep everyone needing your pills and your bullshit. So you can't cure everything. You cure something here once in a while. You know, the pills get better and better, and they help a little bit more and a little bit more, but they never fix you completely. They don't want that. They can't make money on that, and you know who they are. So they keep us sick and dying. They keep us fodder for the medical industry, and it's an industry for a reason, to make money. You know, and if you have a healthy planet, healthy people, then you have no need for this medical industry. You know, not that I trust doctors as far as I could throw any doctor, When half a doctor is book learned, and the other half of being a doctor is just sheer guessing. And most of the doctors nowadays have probably Googled their way through medical school. So no, I don't trust doctors. I don't trust the medical industry, because every time I go to a doctor, he's writing me out a prescription before I've even, had a blood test, or I'm trying to tell him what the fuck's wrong with me, you know. And then you go and you do all of these tests, and they come along and they say, well, we can't find anything really wrong with you. Of course, there could be something, but we'd have to jab you and poke you and do all of this invasive stuff. But we don't want to do that, do we? No, we don't want to do that. And of course you don't, because I don't have real medical insurance. When you get your state medical insurance, then they only want to do as little as they have to. All right. And then they make you jump through a million hoops to do anything more than that. Right. So, would I? No, I wouldn't. Flat out. No, I wouldn't. There's just no way in hell. I'm going to die right here in my home doing what I'm doing. Y'all can watch if you want, because at some point it may be here on camera. It could happen to anybody that way. Google that. How many people have died live on camera? Died during a live stream, right? That's got to be bizarre. That's got to be one of those woo things. But yeah, so I digress. Yeah. I'm going to do a number 3 here, I think. Oh, I got a ghost here. Ooh. Hi, Sam. How's it going, bud? Hi, Sam. Are you warm? Have to come out and get some air? Oh, you see yourself on TV? Huh? You're a good boy, Sam. Huh? You want to lay down some more? Buddy? Hi, buddy. You want to sit here with me? You want to sit here with me? There we go, buddy. Hi. How's it going? You want to get back in your blanket? You want to get back in there? Hi, buddy. What's going on? Oh, you're so sleepy. You're so sleepy. Oh, you're such a good boy. Yeah, where was I? Where? Oh, I was going to do this bong hit. So yeah, population. You know what? What if every person on the planet, all right, and since the planet's such a small place now, and we can pretty much reach everywhere, so why not reach everywhere with positivity? If we can reach just about everywhere to inoculate and give people vaccines and stuff, and to airdrop rice. I mean, come on, why can't we educate people, better about procreation, right? Let's everybody have to get certified to be child worthy, because let's face it, people, on this planet, there is a huge, giant majority of people on this planet who should just not have a pet, let alone a child. They're just not equipped mentally and emotionally to deal with being responsible for the life of another being. And they just bring children into this world willy-nilly. People are bringing kids into the world to go, I'm having a baby now, you got to marry me. Or I'm having a 4th child so I can get more money. I mean, how does this work? I mean, when you go into a marriage, and first and foremost in your head is that this is my first marriage, and people look at marriage and having children as, something that they do to spite other people, Well, it's like let's like driving. It's like one of the most responsibilities, that a responsible person can be responsible for, right? And anybody can have a kid, right? And now with reversing Roe versus Wade, now there's nothing stopping anybody from pumping out kids, you know. Um, to what end? You know, to what friggin' end? We've already exceeded population estimates, right? We keep exceeding the estimates um, from each previous decade. Okay, when we get to here, the population is going to be this. And when we get to there, the population is way past that. The same thing with pollution, you know, the same thing with giving control of our lives to governments and political organizations and corporations who are just there to feed off of us like a friggin' parasite, right? And use us like slaves, right? So, you know, the powers that be, they want uneducated consumers, pretty much it. Uneducated consumers who are happy to sit on their phone all day and watch stupid memes and videos and oh gosh, I like that, I'm going to comment, yeah, that's the best thing in the world. And people spend their whole days on these idiot devices giving up themselves, and these devices could be the things that save humanity, that save the planet, right? So I challenge everybody out there watching to put down your phone, build a garden, plant a tree. If you're going to pick up your phone, post some pictures of you building a garden, planting a tree, a community garden, a neighborhood library or food bank. Let's see some videos and pictures of you helping out your neighbor or a homeless person, supporting your community. Let's see some posts like that. I challenge all of you to keep it in your pants, male, female, or other. I challenge all of you to not just go out into the world and procreate for the sake of getting your rocks off. Because, for the most part, that's how it starts. People have no control down there. And so it gets them into the family trouble, puts them in the family way. And that's not good. That's no bueno. We should be ready for it when it happens, not surprised and bewildered and befuddled and confused and what am I going to do now? I'm going to have a baby. Well, should have thought of that before, basically, and now that they've taken away Roe v. Wade, you can't even fix it, so you're screwed. But we don't ever want to, it's a miracle. We're not screwed. We're blessed. Give me a break. You may be blessed, but the rest of the planet is getting screwed over this, because whether you're putting out one kid and you ain't prepared, or you're putting out your 8th kid and you still ain't fucking prepared, society's going to have to bear the burden of you getting your rocks off, right? And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have kids. I'm just saying that people should be prepared when they have kids. You can't always be prepared because accidents happen. No. I went through my teens and all of my 20s without getting anyone pregnant and without winding up pregnant myself. Okay, so don't tell me it can't be done. We just got lucky. Bullshit. I kept my thing in my pants is what happened. I made a conscious choice every time I was intimate with someone, right? Because that's how it happens. Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. Oops, guess what? No. It goes back to education. If you are educated properly, that's not going to happen. All right. And if you are educated properly, when you do have a child and you've been certified, mentally and emotionally stable enough to have freaking kids, well, then, you get to have a kid or two, and that's it. Because, take a look outside. Go look at the grocery store. Look at the air. Look at the beach. All right. Anywhere you look, you can see the effects of way too many fucking people on this planet. All right. We don't need to keep building to accommodate more people. All right. We need to educate so that we have fewer people on this planet. All right. Period. And until that happens, we're doomed. We're fucked. We're screwed. Because it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. We're already pushing the limits. All right. Water is becoming scarce. Food is becoming scarce. Clean air is becoming scarce. Everything that is being done to save the planet is affecting the planet worse than before, right? Electric cars, the carbon footprint for a regular fossil fuel burning vehicle is enormous, and it's kind of ongoing depending on the length that car lasts. And cars used to last indefinitely. Okay, if you had a car built before 1980, probably before 1970, you had a car that you could rebuild parts on. You had a car that was repairable. You had a car that you could maintain and keep working indefinitely. There are still cars on the road, combustion engine vehicles on the road today that will last forever. Whereas the vehicles being sold today, they have a life of about 5 to 10 years max. And that's if you're really, really nice to it, or you're driving it into the ground, right? And the carbon footprint on that is huge. But when you get to the electric vehicles, where they're supposed to be the savior of the planet, and the carbon footprint on building those is larger than the carbon footprint on a combustion burning vehicle, right? A combustion engine vehicle that's going to be on the road for 20 years. All right. And this electric vehicle still has that short lifespan, right? Of 5 to 10 years max. Okay. And the footprint on the minerals and the materials and the raw ore and stuff to pull out of the planet and process all of this stuff to turn to the zinc and the lithium and all of this stuff to put in these batteries, the footprint is ginormous. And the toxic waste after building these cars and the batteries and all that goes into them, the toxic waste is just beyond comprehension.
All right. And this is supposed to save us. And it's just making things worse. All right. We've got guys who are putting rockets into space using steam and a chemical reaction and stuff that leaves virtually no pollutants in the air, right? Like a balloon going up. And yet we still have organizations who have to have these giant solid fuel burning rockets that pump out so much horrible pollution every time they take off, right? It's like standing at a military Air Force base and watching these giant planes take off and the huge streams of black smoke that billow out of these things and the clouds of black pollutants that then fall down onto us and our food and our loved ones. And that stuff, it's all over us. Every time we walk outside and into the air, we're getting covered in the stuff that is falling out of the sky. Where does it go? Well, it just, it doesn't do anything to bullshit. Don't tell me that it don't do nothing to us. All right. You know, let's see. You take piss and you put it in a fine mist and you shoot it up into the air and you walk under it, right? Don't tell me you're not getting covered in piss, because that's what it is. It goes up into the atmosphere. They pollute the air with these giant freaking aircraft and these giant rockets and all this shit they throw over us, you know, and then it just falls down onto us, you know. It's population control, plain and simple. You know, the powers that be, this is just my opinion, okay? But it is my opinion that the powers that be know all of this, and they are doing all of this as population control, right? Because they ultimately, they control us. They control everything about us. Every aspect of our lives is controlled. Even this live feed here, at some point, it's running through an algorithm which is going to determine whether or not I should be allowed to be heard or seen, right? And as long as I don't go too far out into the extreme or connect too many bad words together, they're probably going to let it slide, right? Because you know, it is my opinion that the devices that are in the devices that we have and that are being sold nowadays are all ways to not just control what we think and how we think and what we buy and what we say and what we do, but I think they also, you know, we know that they can track us. They know that they can decide to turn our devices on and look into our lives. And it's my belief that they can turn on parts of our devices and actually see what's going on in our lives. You know, turn on a camera, turn on a microphone, listen in on a phone conversation. You know, why would this technology, right, that goes for, no less than $30, right? And the prices to these things are unlimited, for these phones and these devices and stuff. And you can pick one up for pretty cheap. But for the most part, it's pretty expensive stuff. And why would they give this stuff away to make sure that people are connected? Well, first of all, they took away the landlines. They took away our ability to communicate one-on-one without intervention. Remember, let me take a hit off of this here.
you remember back in the day, 20 years ago, we had a thing called a landline. And it was these telephone lines that are now considered to be power lines. These wires that were strung to poles that would run around the neighborhoods and around the streets and stuff. Well, these poles with the cables would carry these cables carried signals to telephones that were plugged in to little sockets in our homes, and we would have a telephone with a cord on it, like a TV plugged into the wall, right? We didn't have wireless connections. We didn't have strong digital connections. What we had were these ways of communicating where even if the power went out, even if our electricity went out through the whole neighborhood, the telephone system was on a different power structure and was self-powered, so that you could still take and make and receive telephone calls, right? So in an emergency, one could always get in touch with whoever we needed to get in touch with, whether it be the authorities, the ambulance, the firemen, the police, the neighbors, loved ones on the other side of the country. We were always able to get a back and forth and communicate. And after certain events in this country, things were moved over to a digital-based communication system. So all of the telephone lines and outlets in our homes and all started to become obsolete. We no longer use those. Even the payphones that you see on the street, they go to a server and are still like the smartphones, right? So if we lose power in that area, those payphones will no longer work, because they are actually like the home phone that you have now, which just goes directly into a modem, right? So you got your cable that comes into your home, and that cable brings in your wireless, not your wireless, but it brings in a cable box, and it brings in a modem, and your cable comes off of your modem, and your telephone comes off your modem, your computer and internet come off of your modem, your wireless signal comes off your modem, right? So, but if the power goes out, your ways of communication, watching TV, all of that. Now, before, we had a TV signal that came through the air on an ultra high or a very high frequency. So you could tune your television to pick up TV signals from the air using an antenna. Right now, you can do that with a digital antenna. For the digital TV, there's a digital signal that is broadcasted, right? But before, the signal was broadcasted just much like radio signals. And radio signals today have changed more. They're more of a digital. They carry more information. It used to just be that you turn on the radio and that's what all you got was that radio sound that was coming through. Now you turn on the radio and there's a lot more coming through that signal. That digital signal now carries information to your radio, information to your vehicle, back and forth, so that the radio station knows what transponder to put you on. It carries signals for your radio that says this is what band is playing, and this is the radio station, and this is what song is on right now. So there's more going on in the radio than was going on back then. More going on the TV. Back then, you could just flip on the TV if you wanted to anytime, and you could be just flipping through some channels. You didn't need cable. You didn't need anything but an antenna on the top, little rabbit ear antenna. And all that's gone now. All that is a decade or so ago, they switched over to a digital signal and had to give out digital
digital boxes, cable boxes to people so that their old tube TVs could now transmit, or not transmit, but interpret that new digital signal that was coming in. You know, I've still got some tube television, a couple of tube TVs, and at some point I'm going to have to turn one on and put on an antenna and see what kind of a signal I do get, see if there's anybody still broadcasting on UHF or VHF, because that would be neat. I'd love to have a transmitter and broadcast locally for a couple of miles a UHF signal. That would be very cool, because I could just broadcast what I'm doing here. But yeah, TV, radio, telephones, everything has undergone such a huge change, and it's not necessarily for the better, because a lot of these signals, a lot of these devices, they're just crap. I've got every TV that I've owned, a digital television that has had apps and wireless and stuff, none of this shit works right. It doesn't matter what kind of brand you get. It all, at some point, it has to buffer, it freezes up, the app fails and it has to reboot. And in emergency situations, now we have no way to communicate. At any point, the powers that can be, and this is just my opinion, but in my opinion, at any point in our country now, the powers that be can decide to turn off communication and media in any area at any given moment. Just, okay, let's shut them down. We don't want them to communicate. They're gonna, and if not shut it down, they can redirect or halt social media and communication. Well, let's just make the lines too busy, right? Let's just make it so that those people don't get those posts. They're not going to see those. We don't want anybody to see his post. Make it so that nobody sees his posts until like a week later. All right. Even if he tags 1 million people, don't let anybody see that post until this time period is passed, because we don't want people to get worked up. We don't want them to get involved. He said something that's very, very subversive and rebellious, and we don't want to get, we don't want to get anything started, right? Okay, and that's possible. They can do that now. All right, we see it happen all the time, and it's a small degree, where all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, what happened to my Wi-Fi? Why can't I get a cell signal?" I was watching my favorite program and now it's frozen, and now it says that I don't have a signal. My Wi-Fi stuff is working good. Everything's in the green, but I'm not getting anything, Well, there you go. And you look up into the sky, and the sky is muddled with clouds and gray. No real weather going on. But, after all of those streaks across the sky this morning, now the sky is just pretty much filled with a haze. So I can't even see blue anymore. It's just kind of a gray. I can't see up into anything. I can't communicate with anybody. My bank is down. I can't do any banking. I can't buy anything at the store because everything's on this fucking card. And my bank's not working, and their computer's down. I can't get gas, and everybody's getting sick, and I'm told that we should just stay home. Well, that can happen, and it has happened, because the world is designed right now, at least our part of the world is designed right now, to do that. When all you have to do is flip a couple of switches and everything's going your way, well, how often are those switches going to get flipped? And for what purpose and to what end? And is it for us or is it for them? Them being the powers that be, in my opinion, the people in control, the people with all of the money, and if not all of the money, all of the power, and if not all the power, all the influence. And do I sound like a crazy old weird bearded guy? Of course I do. Of course I do. Because everything is set up right now so that people with an opinion, people with a real idea, with real imagination, are shunned, are a pariah, are evil, are subversive. I'm not trying to start a cult. I'm not trying to start a religion. I'm not trying to start a rebellion. I'm not trying to start mass hysteria. What I am trying to start is a revolution of intelligence, imagination, creativity. Let's start a cycle of doing good for the sake of doing good, right? Let's plant a tree. If you're gonna take a bunch of homeless people off of the street, all right, don't just give them a coupon for a free month in a motel. All right. How about a free month in a motel? But how about a help up and a hand up instead of a hand out, which all that is, it's just a trade. We want you off of the streets because the president's coming to town and we don't want the streets to look like shit. So we're scraping off all of the crust here and putting you guys into a motel for a month so we can at least not have to think about the problem, right? That does not fix a fucking thing, all right? That takes the problem, pushes it down the road, and makes it somebody else's problem, all right? Yeah, that's not the way we're going to fix homelessness. Getting to the root of homelessness is what's going to fix it, all right? Making these giant towers in Los Angeles for the homeless and then telling them, okay, you got to sign a mortgage, you got to sign a rental agreement, you got to pay X amount of dollars, you got to do this, you got to do that. We'll get you off the street, but we're going to force you to do all of the things that put you on the street, right? And these people are going to be in there until they're evicted because they don't want to go along with the status quo and the way things are going. They don't, nor would I. I was homeless and I could have gotten, in some kind of help from an organization. But it would have been on their terms, right? And I'm homeless because I don't want to live life on somebody else's terms. We're not all the same. There's not two people on this planet, not even twins, who are alike in every way. All right. We are all so different, right? I mean, if you're raising children to be just like you, a little clone of you, well, where's the fun in that, right? That none of your kids are the same, but you're going to force them all to live by the same rules and to live the same exact life as their siblings. No, they're not you, and they're not all the same. Well, you got a litter of puppies and each puppy is different. Why would it be any different for your family and your children? Why would it be any different for every person on this planet? Everyone is different, and that's what makes it great. So yeah, education. We should have government and politics and religion and public schooling with actual knowledge being learned. We should have all these things, but the key is knowledge. The key is knowledge. All right. Without knowledge, religions are just cults, in my opinion. All right. And this is just my opinion. No, don't shoot me for having a fucking opinion here. All right. Please, if you have an opinion, let's hear it. My opinion is that without education, all of these things are just things to use to control us. Now, education plus government, education plus politics, education plus government, education plus anything, all right, is going to benefit the individual as well as the whole body of humanity, right? Uneducated people only hinder humanity's growth. Uneducated masses are just sheeple, all right? Fodder for the governments to turn into, good little, happy little citizens who just do what they're told, and I can't see that that's how you wind up in a lot of places that we're at now. It's how you get a Hitler and a Mussolini. It's how you get McCarthyism. It's how you get all aspects of the Vietnam War, home and abroad. I mean, it's just lack of education. And there's so much of a lack of education, even in education. All right. Everything nowadays is taught as doctrine. It's taught as, it's really bullshit. And it's unfortunate that you have to earn an education that does you nothing once you get out into the world. All right. And then most of the time, public schooling just creates such horrible people. Socially, they're just inept. Not to mention homeschooled. I've known a lot of homeschooled kids, and they get out into the world, and it's like, fuck. I wish I had some socialization, when I was young. It would have helped getting along in the world. But I went to public schools, and what they taught was crap back then. And then you get to college, and then it's just more crap. And nowadays, you graduate from 2 years from a college, and it's like less of an education than graduating with a high school diploma 50 years ago. It's just they want you to learn so much crap, right? You have to take it upon yourself as an individual, as a human. You got to take it upon yourself to go out and learn about the world around you. Go to a library, borrow a book. I got to get some water. Okay, so knowledge is power, and knowledge is free. It's literally free. For over 100 years in this country, and probably longer. Well, God, it would have to be longer. So this young country, who is almost 250 years old, so I'm told, Forever in this country, you could go to a public library and for free borrow a book and take it home with you. Or at the very least, sit there in the library and read and absorb knowledge, right? So if knowledge is free, and now knowledge is accessible anywhere via your smartphone, of course, you have to take it all with a grain of salt because it's digital now. It's easily manipulated, so it may or may not be factual, the knowledge that's on the internet and on your smartphones, right? When I was attending college just 10 years ago, we weren't allowed to use or cite anything off Wikipedia as a source because Wikipedia is easily manipulated by anybody using it, or at least it was. I don't know if it's changed. So fact checking on Wikipedia was impossible. So everything nowadays, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Is it real or is it not? Now, of course, to the victors go the history books. The people who win the wars can write the history books. The people who own the power in a certain area and region and portion of the planet can pretty much dictate history, how history is seen, and what is history. But for the most part, the safest bet to acquire knowledge is through an actual book. All right. If you can find trusted sources and authors, and you can use your smartphone for that. You can use your smartphone to go to thrift books, used book source on the internet, and ISBD number, I think is what it's called. There's a number on the back of books that tells you how to find that book. That's like a code. Is this book, or this is an older book? ISBN number. Okay, so this has an ISBN number. This is a Mel Bay Encyclopedia guitar chords. So on the back of every book, it's got that number, and you can use that number to search it and to find it. And you can usually find used books pretty easily on the internet. I use thrift books, and I just search the ISBN number, and I can find books for pennies or fractions of a penny on the dollar. Old encyclopedias are great sources of knowledge. Old dictionaries, old fact-checking books. What do you call those books? Trivia books. All right. Yeah. So I've got a lot of books in my home because knowledge is power, and I like to. While most of my books are of the past, I like to know more about the past that I lived in than I knew about the past while I was living in it, right? Because every time I go back and visit the past and do that time travel jump, I always learn something new about that period in my life. I had so many awesome experiences, but so many other things happened. Every day that I was living my life back then, something was going on around me, in the world around me, and on the planet. Right? So that's kind of a lost history for me. So one of the things I enjoy is to put on a record of something I would have been listening to back then, a concert group that I would have seen, or something I would have heard a lot of on the radio, KMET, and then grab one of these old books, old encyclopedias, and just kind of give myself a topic or a period, and kind of go back and revisit that time anew from a different angle, you know. And that's fun, you know. Well, for me, I mean, I kind of dig history, and I enjoy learning about, you know, yesterday. It used to be that yesterday would kind of guide our tomorrow and inform our today, but we're so disconnected from yesterday, you know. I think that's why there's such a huge resurgence of vintage and retro stuff, is because we know there's a lot there, you know. As much as people want to cancel culture and get rid of the past and not think about all the horrible things that happened, because there were a lot of horrible things, you know, which forgetting about them and pushing them aside, burying them, has brought us to the point to where we are now, where there's still horrible things going on. We'd rather than learn from these things, we just kind of try to forget about it, put them overhead, have a candlelight vigil, and then move on, and then we just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, you know. And I think there's a big movement of time travelers right now, because you know, it was a simpler time, it was an easier way of life, but the values were stronger, you know. We had I don't want to say a stronger moral compass, you know, but we were a lot closer to understanding how to fix things back then, you know. And while the 80s gave us the catalyst to go out and make that change, it also gave us the catalyst for, you know, stupid freaking blunders, and the opportunity to doom ourselves, which is pretty much what we did, you know. You know, between the war on drugs and No Child Left Behind, Just Say No, the war for oil and power in the Middle East. I mean, between all this other stupid shit, and MTV changing from, you know, from music videos to musical games, and with the loss of things like KMET, you know, the world started to change into a consumer-based capitalist wonderland, you know. And it just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. And you throw in the speed at which computers were getting stronger, and you add in corporate greed, and, you know, blend it all together with lobbyists, and what do you get? There you go. We get this horrible place. Yep. Well, It's been a 2.5 hour show today. The sun is poking up through the clouds back there. My dog is snoring and twitching. And he is so adorable. Be sure to check out his adorableness. He pops up every once in a while here on my videos or my Facebook posts. But he's a sweetheart. In fact, I'm going to sign off from my chair today because I don't want to wake the pooch. If I start turning stuff off, he's going to get up. Okay. Okay. I think I'll have one more Bong Hits with y'all before I go, because I can do that. Okay, this is my house. This is my home. This is where I reside. This is in the place where I do my things. You all came over. You know, I'm not doing this in your home. This is my home. I'm not forcing this on anyone. You know, in this household, you do. You're in control of your own life. You do what you want to do. You know, everybody, you know, is to each his own kind of thing. We're here for each other, but we're here equally. I mean, I'm not just a father and husband, you know, I'm an equal partner in this, as are the others in the family. And that goes the same for the dogs. You know, while their equality is a little different, they are treated as individuals first, and dogs last. You know, they are who they are. They are their own little unique creatures on this planet, and I allow them to be their own unique little selves. You know, yeah, it's totally awesome. And I think, like I've said before, I don't put any strict rules on my dogs. You know, they can bark when they want to bark. They get upset about something, they take off running out of here and go outside barking. You know, I won't let them bark too long because it disrupts the neighbors, but I allow them to have emotions. You know, if they get upset with each other, you know, and get aggressive, I don't scold them for it. I just try to love them out of the anger. Hug and kiss the offenders equally until we're all given kisses again. I try to keep. I don't scream and yell at the dogs. I don't raise a hand to the dogs. I don't feel that it should be necessary to do that to anyone or any creature. You know, it's got to be a pretty extreme reason to have to, you know, spank somebody or punch someone in the face. You know, don't get me wrong; those occasions have and do come up. But I don't believe that it's any right of anyone to physically be physical in any physical way, physically with anyone, without their consent. You know, I'm not going to spank a child because the child is its own individual, and it's not going to give me consent, nor should a child give consent to be spanked. And if you can't work things out with a child without spanking, well, there's something else going on with you and or the child, right? And then that has to be addressed. And whether it's mental health or just instability or the inability to deal with being responsible for the life of another person, because that's a big deal. It's like driving a car, you know. You get behind the wheel of this 2-ton vehicle and get up to 70, and then what? Get on your phone? You know, when you're driving, you have to be all invested in driving at every moment, because at any moment while driving, you could be tested, right? And that's what leads to accidents. There's no such things as accidents, but you know, there's always a reason behind everything. Yeah. And you know, the only response for physicality toward another person shouldn't just be responding in kind, right? It should be logic and managed and balanced, and there should be an equal measure of response, but it doesn't necessarily have to be physical in nature. Of course, then again, sometimes it does require a physical. Somebody at some point may require a kick in the teeth for a physical offense, right? But in my opinion, violence begets violence, so it's avoided at all cost. Now, it comes looking for you. Like I said, give violence a kick in the teeth and send it on its way. But for the most part, for any reason, at any age, should you be allowed to put your physicality on anyone at any age for your own purposes or gratifications or whatever. That should just, you know. Sure, you have to deal with children on a very physical level until they reach a certain age. And then you don't, other than a hug. And even hugs, to some people, even those to be considered normal people, even a hug could be unwanted and unwarranted, you know? So, I mean, I had a very unusual childhood. So my whole deal with physicality toward anyone else is, you know, I'm going to ask. I'm not just going to give a hug or a kiss. I'm going to ask for it. And it has to be, you know, I'm going to give you one anyway. That it's not going to work out. It's not going to fly. Because if anyone were to come at me and ask me, or just try to hug me or try to kiss me or something, you know, what you might get a smack in the face for it, you know, or you might get pushed away, you know. But you know, if you're going to try to come up and kiss me, you might get a smack. If you're going to come up and hug me without asking, you might get pushed away. So I don't, you know, even with family members, you know, I'm not going to, you know, force my daughter into a hug if she's just not feeling it. You know, I'll just put my hands out like that. You know, if she wants to give me a hug, she's not, you know, if not, it's fine. I don't care. You know, it's sure it hurts a little bit, but you know, I have to think about it on other people's levels, right? You know, so I'm not always feeling it, so you have to assume other people aren't always feeling it. You know, so even with kids, especially children, You know, they should, you know, you don't force a kid to hug. You don't force a kid for that to kiss you. You don't force a kid to do anything physical. That includes spanking. You know, I don't believe in corporal punishment. I don't believe in spanking kids. I believe in communication. You know, if you spend enough time talking with anyone, there's no need for any kind of physical altercation, communication. There's no need for it. You know, if there is, then there's something going on with one or both of the individuals involved. Okay. And those situations should be addressed differently. You know, but as a whole, humanity should just learn to keep its hands to itself, and stop trying to force their own shit on other people and their own shit, their own ideas, their own ideals, you know, their own issues. Keep it to yourself. Keep your shit in your pants. Keep your hands to yourself. You know, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, shut the fuck up. You know, boy, would the world be such a better place if we just, you know, lived by those three things, you know. And don't have too many freaking kids. Stop having babies, people. All right. If you're a couple, have 2 babies. That's it. We don't need any more than that. We don't need any more of you out there. All right. There's enough people out there already. You know, if you want a dog, don't go to a dog breeder and make the dog breeders rich and want to breed more dogs. There's enough dogs out there. Go to a kennel, go to a dog pound, go to a humane society, go to where the dogs are, because there's a lot of dogs out there. You know, if you want to have more than 2 babies, adopt 8 babies and have 2 of your own. There's a lot of kids out there. There's a lot of kids out there who are like in their teens that need a home. You know, go out and have 2 of your own kids and then have a kid of every age. You know, if that's what you want to do. If you can afford that, if you're that kind of person, then do that. And then we'll see more of you out there in others. That's great. Because if you can do that, well, then you're the kind of people that we want out there. And we want more of you. And if we can put that's in you into those kids and those people who don't have anybody to have a model of, well, then yeah, we need more of you out there in these other kids, you know. But you know, let's teach our children well, right? And let's not have so many children, you know. And let's go back to the old ways. All right. Let's go back to the old ways. Because we could take a mix of the old and the new and really make it work, you know. You know, it's like my stereo system here. You know, I've got a brand new Audio-Technica turntable, a brand new Sony receiver that does the Bluetooth wireless stuff, right? But I've also got 1980s reel-to-reel, 1970s, no, it's a 1980s 8-track player, a 1990s cassette player recorder, and it works well together. You know, I can do so much with it. I can take my phone, Bluetooth it into the stereo, and then record that onto my reel-to-reel. Right? It's beautiful. That's awesome. You know, and we have so much going on right now that with a mix of what it was like back then with what it is now, Imagine what we could do, right? Just imagine. Well, I can imagine a lot. Well, this is another long show today, but that's okay. I like to get a little bit more time in on YouTube here, and these long broadcasts help to boost my my video time quantity thing there. So the more hours I have for people to view, and the more videos that I have, the more I'm able to do on YouTube. So when I get to 50 subscribers, so I'm told, or I was told when I was at the Honda Center, and I tried to log into my phone and go live on YouTube from the Honda Center at the iHeartRadio concert, I was given a statement that said I needed 50 subscribers or more and able to go live when I'm mobile. All right. So my short-term goal is to get to 50. So then when I'm out doing stuff, I can go live either locally or out and about in Southern California and kind of share my happenings with y'all. Because I run into some weird situations or wind up going to concerts and stuff that it's just unexpected. And for me, a lot of things, even though they're in the planned in the future, they still pop up as unexpected because I forget where the hell I'm at and what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden my daughter will say, don't forget that we're going to a concert in 3 days. And then I'm thrown for a loop. What concert? Where are we going? What are we doing? So that happens quite frequently, which, it's kind of a bummer because my memory is so screwed up. But it's kind of fun too, because it's like every day is a new adventure for me. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm doing what today? Oh my God, I forgot. That's right. Oh, yay. Right? Can you really hear me chewing? I know this microphone is powerful. Can you hear my stomach when it gurgles? Oh. Ah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll get another bong hit together here for this morning, because I think we're at I don't know. I think this is 4 or 5 in 3 hours, which a couple of bong hits an hour is usually about my maximum. If I'm out working or walking around and doing a lot of physical activity, then I'll probably be using my little one-hitter thingy here, and it's just a little wooden box with a one-hitter deal in there, and I'll use that. Sorry for the noise. And it's a little less intense, so I'll do that 3 or 4 times an hour if I'm out, and my pain level is going do 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 do. But for the most part, I can usually at home I can get away with a hit or two an hour. Keeps my pain level down, and I don't feel like I'm just a stoner idiot. On occasion it's okay to get goofy and stuff, like someone having a few more beers than they usually do, but I'm not usually into going that deep into smoking anymore. When I was young, I smoked so much just for the sake of getting loaded, and then stop smoking, a few times in my adult life, and then finally went back to it because of pain. But then fell in love with it again, remembering how much I enjoy it recreationally. But knowing the benefits of today's strains and stuff for pain, it's a whole different ball game now. So I'll usually get a big bag for pain, and then get a little bag for the brain, and kind of go at it like that. This morning I'm doing Breakfast Club, and it is an indica, and it is by the Big Tree organization, and I've had a lot of their marijuana before. Good stuff, good stuff. As it is this morning, but in the mornings I usually use an indica to alleviate my pain, or at least a dominant hybrid, an indica dominant hybrid. And that's just because indica is better it's a better body high, it's a better pain reliever. I grew up smoking strictly sativa until the indicas came along in the 80s. But that's what they would call the crippling weed, because it was a mental and physical high. So you got that body crippling, like, wow, man, I'm just like lethargic, which of course the strains now, especially the ones for pain, well, they do a lot for your body and your pain, and they do all right for your head, but it's not like you're getting a crippling buzz. Well, at least not for me. I mean, and I've been smoking for 40 years, since 1555. So yeah, about 40 years. Yeah, sativa back in my youth. Indicas came along, but it was known as skunk weed or Humboldt weed, Northern California weed, and it was usually pretty pricey because it was really dense and sticky and stinky, and it was something that Southern Californians weren't really used to. We were used to a lot of Mexican weed coming up in big bricks, and then broken up into little bags, or stuff that was grown in Southern California, like Southern California red hair, Fallbrook red hair. We didn't have many places that grew marijuana in Southern California, so really good Southern California weed was scarce, but really good. And Northern California indica, skunky stuff, was really expensive. And I can still remember the tastes and the smells, and the touch and the feel of these different weeds. The Colombian, and Maui, Acapulco, Oaxaca. Yeah, the skunk weed from Northern California, the red hair from Fallbrook red hair. That was probably my favorite. And I'm always, when I'm going to these dispensaries and these pot shops, I'm always looking for a Fallbrook red hair, a really good bright green, bright red bud that wasn't too dense, but it wasn't too light and fluffy. And it just had this great smell. And when it was burned, it had this just this great aroma to it. But that's one of that I miss the most. That and chocolate tie stick, and it was a really dark brown, chocolatey weed that was wrapped to a stick, or it was just the bud kind of flattened out so it looked like a stick. But chocolate tie weed. Yeah, those are two strains that I miss having in Southern California, and the original Jack Herer, or the original skunk weed from back then. That would be something phenomenal to get a hold of. But yeah, man, I'm telling you, things have really, really changed. This breakfast club is great because I'm not getting I'm getting a little bit of an eyeball change and a head change out of it, but I'm not getting a real like, oh my God, dude, I'm so fucked up, I'm just getting a really good body high. And that means that the pain that I've got in my neck is being disconnected from my brain. It's there. I know it's there. I can feel it when I move, but it's not so in your face, you know. And so I'm within 3 hours, I'm able to do 6 of these, and not be like completely obliterated, or not be like I just want to go back and jump into bed. Right? It kind of gives you an energy high, kind of sedates your body a little bit, but doesn't affect your brain so much. Not so much as your body, anyway. And it's not real harsh. You know, I got this and this last night. And while this one says early bird, it's more of a late night because it's a sativa, so it's a really good head buzz, 32.58% THC. It's a really good head buzz. It's a little chunky, like this stuff. I don't cough too much off of this stuff here, but this one here, I was gagging when I was doing this stuff last night. So I had to do really, really small hits. I can power down pretty big hits of this breakfast club here. But man, that early bird sativa, that's some pretty heavy stuff. And so this is this one's a hybrid, an indica strong hybrid. And this one here is just a straight sativa, the little early bird one, straight sativa. That's straight sativa. That's one that just bites you right in the poo-poo. Whew. Just grabs you out of keister and makes you cough your brains out. I'm telling you, that's some heavy stuff. All right, so with that last hit, I think I'm going to leave it for today. Like I said earlier, when I thought I was going to cut it, I'm going to go from here today because I got a dog sleeping next to me and a dog over there. And if I get up, start turning stuff on or off, they're going to think that we're going to bed or going out or something somewhere, and they're going to get up and start moving around. And I just kind of want everything to remain quiet in here because I like it right now. It's a nice, peaceful, easy feeling. So with that, I will say good morning, weirdos. Thanks for hanging out with me for a couple hours, 3 hours today. And I will see you in the manana. Things that we're talking about this week are Willie Nelson movies. So if you get a chance, watch a Willie Nelson movie. I'm going to try to watch The Red-Headed Stranger and Barbarossa because I've never seen those. So I'm going to try to watch those. There's a lot of Willie Nelson stuff out there to watch. One of my favorite later things by him is The Dukes of Hazzard, of course, the reboot. So let's talk on Thursday about Willie Nelson, music, movies, that kind of stuff, TV, wherever you've seen them. All right. Love y'all. Take care. And I will see you tomorrow at 5 a.m. Adios, weirdos. Yeah. Bunch of freaks. Go on now. Get out of here.